pistols, their assault rifles, and I'm a big Second Amendment lover. In fact, the hunt club that Carly mentioned is located is my home. Well, it's not mine. I am the president. But at least all the surrounding property of the shooting. And therefore, I'm not going to be able to hunt a certain section of my property because isn't nobody going to want to climb into a stand that is upwind of the shooting range. Literally, we have stands now that are would be downrange of the targets. That's a lot of my concerns there. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ed Slate. I'm a resident of Johnson Road. I live at 24220, relatively new. Resident of here. I'm not here. My family here about a year ago. I don't very glad to be here. However, when I heard about this about a week ago, I became very concerned for my own family, with RRPs, right, that we moved out here for, as well as the neighbors that I am now soon getting to meet more and more. Unfortunately, it's a good process mostly. I don't think I can add any concerns that haven't already been expressed, but I do owe my fellow neighbors their respect by submitting to you their request to go on record as having said that they do not want this special exception permit to move forward. So I've got 7 copies of a document that was drawn up and circulated to the residents over the past few days. And so, again, to their credit, they went to one file records having said that they do not want this going forward for all the, I think all of the reasons that have already been submitted. So, due respect, I'll leave it at that. But I can't add anything else to why I would be against this as other residents have already submitted to you.
Thank you, sir. How many signatures do you have?
We have about 64, 65 signatures on that.
Well, Martin McDonald, 16211 Church Street. I say this is a pro-gun county, pro-private property rights county. One point though that hasn't been brought up yet is pretty much people have a right to kill their property, what they want to do until it becomes a nuisance, right? That's how it's defined under law. This, with the residents nearby, is clearly a nuisance. Pretty cut and dry. Thank you.
My name is Joe Wilson, resident of 24280 Johnson Road. Really can't add much, like the other gentleman said, that's already been stated. It's pretty obvious that most of the whole road of Johnson does not want anybody there. Mainly just safety concerns. Things that the gentleman understands, what the commercial unguided range is gonna be like. I visited several range myself. Gentleman spoke about limited noise and participation. I disagree with that 100%. That may be out at your range. But I've been to several that's not like that. Other than that, I'm mainly just opposition at all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Larry Pinckney. I reside at 23160 Johnson Road. I've been living down here a little bit more than 9 years. I enjoy the peace and tranquility of the country. I retired, built my house down here for that primary reason. I also enjoy being out in the woods. I enjoy seeing the wildlife and the people that live around us. And the main thing that I object to is approval of rezoning the area from residential agricultural to a recreational and which could lead to industrial. We don't need a private gun club, especially one that's going to be unsupervised. You're talking about having firearms, you're talking about having archery, you're talking about having muzzle loader. If there's no one there to control the goings on or the times of operation, you're headed for disaster. It's going to be more work for the police, more work for the county, and courthouse. Those are my main objections, plus the wear and tear on the road, because these are not going to be local people. Local people down here already have areas where we can shoot. Most of us have ranges in our backyards or whatever. These are going to be people from elsewhere. More wear and tear, traffic on Johnson Road, Jennifer Road. It's not going to be available to the local people unless, of course, you become a member. But how do you do that? There's nobody around to sign you up or give you information. So we vote no for the rezoning and no for any private organization to run a gun range in or near Johnson Road.
Thank you, sir.
John Edwards, I live at 2310 Johnson Road. I've lived not as close as the rest of these people do to the property. I'm about 8/10 of a mile east of that property where the proposed shooting range would be. The only thing I've heard, I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said. They covered a lot of great points that I had written down. The only thing they didn't touch on was possible lead contamination in the soil and water concern. As far as I've read in the handout that the property would be maintained. I was concerned, I know maintaining property is a lot to keeping lead from getting into your soil. And if it rains a lot, you've got to worry about lead going into the watershed, going into streams, going into underground. It's probably you oftentimes, if it's not properly maintained, you have a concern of possible lead particles becoming airborne, which could be a hazard to people, children especially, but also their wildlife. So I am opposed to the shooting. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Flippin, 7921 Mount Zion Road. Just kind of recapping everything, as everybody said about the range. Just to throw out a couple key points. One, I heard in the description, burns and natural fauna and other landscape to act as backstops. What does that mean? Trees, bushes? How high are the berms? I'm a member of Nottaway as well. One of the things that struck me really good, they have handicap accommodation. I can pull my truck right on up to the barrier, get out, and it's a concrete pad, benches. That was something that me and my family, getting out there to be able to shoot was significant. I've heard no description. Is this going to be handicap accessible? What kind of maintaining are you going to do? As I said, how high are the berms? How high is the backstop? How thick is the backstop? None of these things have been described. I'm not against a gun club. Certainly, I'm very much Second Amendment supporter. But the language that is being used in the request for this permit is not sufficient. There's not been enough thought put into this as to what is necessary for a gun range, in my opinion, for a safe gun range. I think somebody needs to sit down and go back to the drawing board and rethink this before it's approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Terry D. 6331 West Park Road, Richmond, Virginia. So it's 22 miles in, there's a request, a special exception permit to operate a commercial recreation facility outside on the land that is adjacent and across the street from my property. I strongly ask that you deny this request and keep current zoning guidelines in place to protect harmony and tranquility of the land. The properties that will be affected by the approval are owned by myself. My four siblings and all extended family members is strongly believe that this is not appropriate location nor permitted for such a development. Please consider the request for an area of this of the county in which such a facility will have direct access and major roadways and not impose on a peaceful resident. Despite whatever revenue or property value it may not bring, seniors go, people don't forget it. The land is scared, we're deeply rooted in family. I hope you will consider my concerns along many county residents who are put this place before taking any decision for application. Each of us have acres that were passed down to us previous generations. We will intend to pass our acres to our descendants. I specifically have many earmarks for my four children. On behalf of myself and my family, I ask you to keep tax parcel 27F47 and surrounding parcel as safe, quiet, and peaceful acreage you have grown the property. I'm 81. I've been on that road since I was here too. So that's my grandpa. You know, don't want nothing to happen. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is James Bill. I was born on Johnson Road. I have property on Johnson Road. I'm a vehicle inspector, disabled. I'm told reason for the gun show. Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening. Ron Baptist, 23065 St. James Road, St. James Lane, down there in the city. I'll make mine short and sweet. I have 75 acres, about 300 yards from this piece of land. If you ask me, I don't have enough land for that. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Maxine Baptist and, I reside at 24095 Johnson Road, and my property backs up to the property that they're gonna put the gun range on. My major concern is there's a little boy who lives next to me. He's autistic. Likes to go down through those woods back behind my property, and they're right beside me. So my concern is him. happy in his space that he's there. He's been there for 15 years. I've been there for 24 years. So, I'm totally opposed to it. You know, the noise, everything that everybody else said, you know, the noise.
And she's, yeah, one of the funniest, the like most genuine people I've ever met. And I feel like we this whole time have this like energetic connection.
Can everyone make sure you mute yourself who is called in?
I found this, I mean, when I got halfway to seeing y'all at the table.
Should be able to be okay.
There we go.
So, I'm just worried about the traffic. We have a lot of people who walk the roads and stuff. And I don't wanna hear that noise. No, I don't. I work 2 jobs, so I'm up late, I'm up early, and I'm up late, so I don't wanna hear that noise.
Thank you, man.
Totally.
Anyone else like to speak?
We have 2 letters.
We have some letters to read that come in. Unless you speak first, sir, then we'll read the letters. I'll open it back up.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm Chris Barletta. I'm the reason I voted over here. I hear your concerns. I just want to take the opportunity not to try to sway your decisions or opinions, but just to give my perspective on it. And allow the planning committee to do their job. As you may tell from my accent, I'm obviously not born and raised here in Virginia. I did speak with you on the phone. Thank you. Very, very nice lady. I do come from New York. I come from the city area. Coming out here, I was looking at the area to open up a shooting range because, in my eyes, being from the city, this is a less densely populated area. It seems more country to me, whereas to you, this seems like your community. To me, it seems like a rural area or a destination where I might be able to do something like this. The plan that I proposed with the layout of the range, I hear your concerns about safety. Safety of projectiles leaving the range or being fired in your direction. The only thing I can say for that is the range, the way I envision laying it out, all your houses are to the north, all shooting to be done southwest, away from all the residences. I do hear your concerns about the range not being staffed. There's many shooting locations that are not staffed, including, county wildlife preserves that many people go to decide to get rifles and things like that. I belong to several gun clubs. None of them are staffed. They're all by membership. I did, you did question me on membership, how many people did I think would be there? And I said I'd like to cap it at somewhere around 200. And the reason I gave you behind that is because the clubs that I belong to cap out at about 250. And when I go there during the week, there's some shooting or target practice, likelihood of me running across anybody is very slim. If I run this maybe one person during the week, that's a lot. And you'll have probably a handful on the weekends, just by the nature of the way people's schedules are. And, want to get out on the weekend and practice activities like most of us. To this gentleman's point, there's not going to be as many people out there in the form of a gun club as you might think. If you, I don't want to beat myself, but just from the numbers from my other gun clubs that I belong to, it's not really going to be that active of a club as you might think. You did question me on if I would gate the property in. I didn't have a plan to gate in. I needed 21 acres of property. My plan was to burn the property at the property lines. One, prevent any projectiles from leaving the range in that direction, and 2, to mitigate sound and the way that sound travels or projects. For the noise concerns, I put a little bit of thought into the sound to see if I was able to minimize how much noise was going to be coming in your direction. I came across a noise study. It's a bunch of boring numbers, but in short, in decibels, gunshots approximately 145 decibels at, say, 1 meter away. every time you double that distance, let's say 2 meters, it reduces by 6 decibels down to 139. And all of the properties are at least 175 yards away from where the firing lines would be. With the new layout, not the one that you saw, I changed it because I realized that speaking to you, that wouldn't work, and that night I stayed up and tried to reconfigure things, but at that distance, that linear distance, of me facing somebody and shooting at them, let's say, the perceived noise, without any berms or trees or bushes or brush would be somewhere between 90 and 100 decibels, reduced by a berm up to 25 decibels, so down to 75. And to put that into reference for most of us here, a dog barking is anywhere between 85 decibels and 122 decibels, to put it into perspective. It is. If you could, yes. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head the other concerns that you, is there anything, I did hear the lead in the.
Can you guarantee no projectiles flying?
I don't think anybody in the county of Amelia can guarantee no projectiles are gonna go in anybody's direction.
Guarantee that one went straight out to be my 6-year-old.
I can't, so there is no guarantees, you know. So what I did say to you is, you know, for safety, people required to take a safety, you know.
Question.
Yes,
Did you try to open one in Chesterfield, saying gun type of range?
I did not.
Yeah.
Go to Chesterfield?
Yeah, it's a big residential neighborhood where nobody wants it. 360 veteran, you get one clientele.
Where in 360? I don't think there's any property left.
There's 135 acre building. Yeah, I think property. Gregory Lane, check it.
I'll have to hold you down. We got too many questions. We cannot understand. Commission cannot pick up everybody speaking. If you have a question, raise your hand and let Chris answer it. And then we'll go to the next one. That way everybody can get the question answered and everybody on the planning commission can hear it. Yes, sir.
I hunt away. That little block you talking about, it's too close to the house. Got older people living down the road there. People like to get outside the house with wives or cook out or something. You can't have a cookout, all the shooting going on. So you don't know who down which way they shoot.
Well, we know.
When you tell me you're shooting at a barrier there, or maybe some nut. They have a few drinks and those gun around and shoot in the air. It's just that shooting range is too close to those houses. Just shoot at them. So, don't try to put one down there and see what happens.
Why is this unmanned? Because, to state code Article 5, Section 53, 1.37, there must be for commercial firing ranges. There's a safety officer on the property at all times.
Oh, I didn't know that here.
Yeah. And do you have plans that you've submitted to the planning committee? We're supposed to have 5 copies of design and construction plans.
I submitted the copies, yeah. I mean,
We're
this is,
supposed to have 5 copies of these plans.
Yes, and I wouldn't come until.
You know, that would not come until after this, before it went to the planning. Or supervisor.
Right.
right, it wasn't a plan, it was just a rough layout of.
Well, how can someone approve something? You don't know what will approve.
Well, I don't approve, one thing, it's not the approving authority,
Well,
is it?
the planning commission will send their recommendations to the board of supervisors.
So we may have quite a list of things that they would have to consider if we pass it. If we turn it down, we'll still have a lot of things that they
Right.
can learn about.
Was I correct to understand that there's no, you can fire anything,
Yes, yeah.
so including ARs?
Yeah, there's one was still held.
Okay, so, here it is, section 53, 1-37, no rifles exceeding 45 caliber except
They are 22 caliber.
I know nothing about.
They are the 23 caliber.
Okay, no explosive tips, no armor piercing, and no line coated bullets.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Not,
Who's
definitely not permitted though, already. She was controlling it.
if there's no, if there's not. If there's no safety officer, I've also learned a lot about shooting ranges from Maryland to Virginia Beach to Chester. Very, very few outdoor commercial ranges. They're all members only. $300 a year seems to be about the going rate. Most of them are indoor. Why is outdoor so important to you?
There's a lot of things that you can't do indoors. If there's any, let's just use an example. Let's say it's a target shooter. Part of why I wanted to open the outdoor range is for longer distance shooting, sometimes, which you can't really accomplish at an indoor facility. A lot of indoor facilities are only 25, 50, maybe 100 yards.
100 yards, something about it.
Yeah, yeah. So I was looking for something further, 500 or 600 yards, something a little bit further for maybe a competitive shooter or a target shooter or something of that nature.
Okay. Section 53-142 says, state law or code, a minimum of 1,000 feet from the road. What I'm getting from, and I don't know what Johnson Road is. I mean, I have no idea where you all live.
Little slice of heaven.
I mean, I live in downtown Mason's Corner. Hub of the universe. Where, 4,000 cars a day pass my house. I've been dealing with a difficult neighbor who operates a private firing range. And my home is up. Oh, I know it doesn't like that, but neighbors too. I live 1,000, shy of 1,000 feet from this neighbor. Gallo will tell you, the sheriff's office will tell you, I go into emotional stress. I'm not a Vietnam vet, but I'll suffer PTSD from this. It makes me crazy. I live 2 miles as the crow flies from the Amelia wildlife area. On a quiet day, you can hear 2 miles. You have decibel figures on barking dog, gunfire. And I'm a Yankee too. I'm from New York, so I've lived in Amelia for 40 years. They're rural to you. But there are tight communities, and I'm glad to see the Johnson Street came up. And if, we haven't got plans, how can we approve something if we don't have plans? I mean, and that background checks. Have you ever heard of background checks? According to this, you're supposed to have one, if you're part of a group, association, or corporation. All members are supposed to have criminal background checks. If you own all these guns, if you have all
Background check.
the ones, I'm assuming you've been through criminal background checks, but these are just questions I think everyone needs to know. Comfortable knowledge is power,
We've got another question. I have one in the back.
Yes, sir.
What happened to the over the group, like especially south? I got been in places where there was holes in the river, and that's nothing coming down the river. So what happens to them? South.
Yeah, part of the reason that I was trying to choose that land is for the topography. There's a high point on the land. All shooting is done downhill. And there would have to be a berm built back there also, but the shooting is downhill, about 60 feet of a decline. So if anything were to be shot too high, it would either hit a natural backstop or the built berm that would have to go behind it. If somebody did something wildly crazy, fired into the sky, then you're talking a different story.
Normally, you have your impact area, your berm, and this should be 15 to 20 feet tall, at least 15 feet thick. Behind that berm Usually it's about 300 to 400 yard area. It's a dead space that you have boarded off with signage. It's an impact area. About every 75 yards, clearly marked, delineated that this is an impact area. You don't want to try to get your burn right up to the edge of the property.
Yeah.
Question, sir?
I just look, if we don't vote to rezone, we won't have to worry about the range at all.
I just looked up on the internet that the safe decibel range is considered 70. I remember my time in the industry, they had to wear earplugs at 80, 85. So tell me how far you have to be away from the guns that they're going to shoot, not to have to wear earplugs. So you're going to have to wear earplugs.
200 yards based off of that, which is an algorithm, but not the moment.
200 yards from the, get considered, we're down 6. Say we're down 6 decibels with the.
Right, we're doubling this. So.
That's something.
Any more questions? You ever done one of these before?
Build a shooting range now, first time.
Any other questions for Chris? Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for the planning commission. Do you know how many families live on Johnson Road?
Off the top of my head, man, I don't even know how long Johnson Road is.
41.
41?
Just on Johnson Road.
Thank you.
That's 41 families. Property values will come.
Thank you, ma'am. Any more questions for Let's go. Better.
So I don't need any more trash, nothing, my property, any other testing vehicle. That, you know, I don't know. I'm literally false.
Groundskeeping go up the property?
Yeah.
I don't have to claim for groundskeeping go up my property on public roadway.
We got banners, we got dogs.
Do we have time?
I got birds, they were scamming kid out. I'm keeping the music, you know, I have to clean up my yard as it is regular thing, so we need more trash.
Yeah, these are things, if the planning committee decides to move this forward, these are all things that we can address. I'm not, you know, if anything gets approved, you know, it's something we see, we definitely talk about all this stuff. I'm not here to make any reason to do it again. I realize a lot of you guys dislike me right now, because it's what's trying to do. But I'm not trying to make, I'm legitimately not trying to make it.
Another man back in the left his hand. I can't see who he is. Do you have a question, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you too well.
Handicap access.
Oh, handicap access? Yeah. Yeah, I do. If I did put a range there, I would have, like you said, cement, shooting sleds and accessible parking. That would be profitable.
Any more questions? Mr. Costello. If not, I'll let him sit down and we'll have any other questions. Or comments before I close the public hearing.
Well, I got the letters.
We still have 2 letters, and I may have one. Oh, my.
My name's Ashley Dunn. I'm named Stewart County. It's a pleasure meeting everyone, which was under different circumstances. I'll be reading for 2 individuals. The first one is a Maud Allen. To whom it may concern, I am Maud B. Allen, and I reside at 24001 Johnson Road in Petersville, Virginia. I received a letter in reference to the construction of a recreational shooting range near my home. I'm opposed to the construction of a shooting range in such close proximity to my home. I have concerns about the soil contamination that could pollute my well water, projectiles not being properly stopped that could endanger me, my family, and the neighbors. I'm also opposed due to how it could negatively affect my tranquil environment. And then, sorry. And then this one is from a Ruby Bailey. Dear Planning Commission Board, my name is Ruby Bailey, formerly Ruby Johnson. I own property on Johnson Road. I have lived on Johnson Road all my childhood. I grew up there with my parents, grandparents, siblings, cousins, uncles, and aunts. My grandparents, Russell and Mary Johnson, of whom this road is named after, raised 9 children on Johnson Road. They have 39 grandchildren, 84 great-grandchildren, 39 grandchildren, 84 great-grandchildren, 99 great-great-grandchildren, and 6 great-great-great-grandchildren and counting. 10 years ago, we had 234 descendants, and as of today, it's well over 250. The Johnson family is very close-knit with strong historical, moral, and Christian values. I am ready to express my strong opposition to the construction of what Ms. Scarpetta, sorry, I mispronounced that, calls a recreational facility, also a shooting range. My concern is the increase of traffic, noise, and the attraction of other business and the negative impact of property value and the fear of the unknown. This will also affect many who have enjoyed raising their family and using their property for agricultural purposes. Lifestyle will be interrupted because of this recreational facility. So I have some questions that need to be addressed. Is this facility private or exclusive, meaning who all can join? What's the credentials that's needed to join? Who can attend? Same question. How will this affect the families and surrounding neighbors' safety? Is there a fee to join? Who will this facility benefit other than Mr. Scarpetta? How will it benefit the community? I personally would like my grandchildren and grandchildren and great-grandchildren to have the option of experiencing the beauty and the pride of Johnson Road without my former concerns. Strongly submitted, Ruby Daly.
Sharon, I got a text from a resident on Johnson Road. I'll be reading this, text from someone on Johnson Road. Good evening, my name is Troy Carter, and I live on Johnson Road. I am against anything that would upset peaceful community, and that would be the proposed gun range. I am a 2A supporter and support all people that feel the same way. This proposal, in my opinion, would cause too much sound pollution in a very quiet community. I also believe that there is not enough land for proper safety precautions. Traffic is already an issue as well. Mead Springs Road, Mead Springs Road. For these reasons, I am against it and think it would be better suited in an industrial area where noise is more common. Thank you for your time. This is a no for me.
Heard the letters. Any more people would like to make a comment? Anybody on web like to make a comment?
One person still muted.
Is someone muted?
Do I need to unmute? Well, they can unmute.
So you can request them to unmute, but if they were trying to talk, they would light up blue. So no one who's called in is trying to speak.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak before I close the public hearing? Anyone else like to speak? Public hearing is closed on that matter. Appreciate you coming out. Appreciate your discussion, points. They will be well taken. Do not do this lightly. Again, thank you for all your speaking. Now we're gonna go right into the next public hearing. We have 2 solar projects, or 2 solar ordinances that we've got to do something with. You're welcome to stay. If you get speaking, I will ask you to leave. We need to hear from anybody in here would like to speak on this solar order. Like to leave? Appreciate your coming.
opinion, not my authority.
Next ordinance coming up, the alternative energy ordinance. Zoning committees worked on this, planning commission worked on this, or supervisors worked on this. Trying to rewrite it. And hopefully we come a whole lot closer to covering all the details. Y'all think we missed anything? Open the public here, please speak up. It's not a done deal yet. Everything can be added.
Okay, the summary report for this issue. An ordinance amendment to Article 39, alternative energy of the Amelia County zoning ordinance to include additional regulations for utility scale solar facilities, accessory uses. Summary of information. May the Planning Commission and Zoning Committee met to discuss the alternative energy ordinance. This meeting was in response to an increase in applications for utility scale solar projects within Amelia County. The committee discussed several proposed changes to the alternative energy ordinance, including increased building setbacks and buffers, battery storage regulation, additional SEP conditions, and environmental protections. Based on this feedback, the Board of Supervisors held a workshop to discuss the zoning committee's feedback and provide additional recommendations. The Planning Commission discussed the zoning committee and Board of Supervisors suggestions as an entity at their regular July meeting. Proposed ordinance that follows as a result of these meetings. Recommendation is for the Planning Commission to hold a public hearing and provide an informed recommendation to the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you.
You all have probably picked up on this, but there are two versions in your packets. One is very, very, very marked up. That's just so you all can see the changes that were made. The version immediately following the marked up version is what it would look like if we were to adopt it today. So that's the version with the updated language, but no markup.
Thank you, Holly. Why don't the planning commission have any comments before we go to the public hearing? I think it was pretty well covered, reading over, my sticker on her last time when just 10 years when no agricultural product being produced on it. That comes in the second part of it. But, I think we need to be more considerate about the good farmland going in houses and going in solar farm if we want to eat. Any other comments before I open the public hearing? I'm just second to call on that. All right. All right, I'll open the public hearing on the ordinance text alternative energy ordinance. It's about 11 pages long that we have. If anybody needs a copy, please come forward and speak, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you all for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Tyson Butt. I'm the co-founder and manager of Commonwealth Energy Partners, also CEP Solar. We understand that this has been a deliberate process we all been working on for quite some time, and appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all tonight. We have founded Commonwealth Energy Partners really with the objective of trying to help make sure that Virginia's transition to a clean economy can be done right and responsibly. We know that that takes a lot of really detailed standards that you've laid out in this ordinance. Try to make sure that solar projects are done, sited, and located in a reasonable way. There are a lot of factors that go into identifying the best solar sites that are available. We know that also the ordinance process isn't specific to one particular project, so I'm certainly speaking not as an applicant, but as a stakeholder in this process. We're working with a landowner here in Amelia County with, in this case, 350 acres of property. The project that is contemplated for that particular landowner would encompass between 50 to 75 acres for the solar facility. So that's less than 25% of the property. And it's certainly something that's being intended to do long-term sustaining the agricultural production of that property itself. It's also something where when projects are sized to be able to fit within parcels of that scale, they can be set back from roadways. They can be done in a way that there's no visual concerns for neighbors, or all the town during the operations of the project. All that is to say that when projects are cited with stringent standards, they can be done in a way that wouldn't really cause to use the term referenced earlier by another constituent without being a nuisance to neighbors. So we certainly believe in and want to uphold the values from a rural community perspective of site projects in a way. I think we're also recognizing that this ordinance is perhaps the process that Amelia County has been going through from the original project on Genito Road, more recent experience at West Creek, and how we need to look at for projects that are making new applications, how we need to incorporate lessons learned for any project. That's a natural process. But I am concerned about just some of the standards in here that would effectively create a moratorium for projects of this scale or size. 1,000-foot setback from all property lines is something that would just wipe this project out. I prepared a map again, just kind of to show that I'd be happy to share for you that out of 350 acres, if you were to have 1,000-foot setbacks from all the property lines, you're left with less than 10 acres to be considered. It's just not viable for a farmer to be able to pursue that solar opportunity with that much loss of their own property. So I really wanted to just recommit to our willingness to work with Amelia County. We met in the spring with county staff, met with members of the planning commission. We're very eager to continue working with everyone here to really set what we hope will be a strong ordinance, but a fair ordinance. So we can continue to pursue this project, hopefully be in a position to file an application when timing is right. But for us, there is a step process here that we need to follow. And our next step is tomorrow night, we'll be having a community meeting. It literally is a coincidence that here we are. I know you took this issue up in July, and now here we are back in August. But now we're having a community meeting for our particular project tomorrow night in the same room. We really would welcome anyone who would like to come to that meeting to learn more about us, learn more about the project itself. We'll be sharing maps with everyone, but we want to be cautious to not get the cart before the before the horse in this case. Just given the fact that this is a project that's still in the planning phases, as there may be others, but we know that there are limitations where projects can't be cited, meeting stringent conditions. But I would just urge you all, as we're not in a rush, to consider the comments and concerns we've raised today, and we would welcome the opportunity to continue to work with you towards the best possible outcome. So thank you for the time. We appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I would like to speak public hearing ordinance.
Good evening. My name is Francis Hodsall. I have property actually 40 Hebron Church, Sachs, Virginia, Charlotte County. But I'm here as a solar developer. And also here, I do not have a project in this county. I have no expectation of ever having a project in this county. But I have permitted projects in 12 counties in Virginia. I've also built gas plants. I've operated coal, gas, hydroelectric. Had the opportunity to help the U.S. military in Afghanistan develop hydroelectric plants. I think I have a little bit of experience in the industry since '95, and I would just urge you all to take a step back from this ordinance, because there's many things that are very good on this ordinance, and obviously a lot of work and time has been put into this ordinance. But as an example, what Tyson just said, the 1,000-foot setback is not what is seen in this industry and in other counties. But more importantly, I think you're going to do this to the detriment of many smaller landowners who might want to participate. We've had landowners in our projects who, this is the way they keep the family farm, right? And they don't have a lot of land, and you put a 1,000-foot setback on a smaller parcel of land, it won't make economic sense to do that project. So I think it would make some sense to take a moment and just take a hard look at some of these provisions. I would be personally happy to come back down here, because I think it's really important that we do this right. I think that in my experience, having operated and developed other projects of other technologies, I think solar can be done in a way that benefits the community, but also benefits landowners. And would be more than happy to work with you on that, because I'd like to see this not become a precedent, because I think it would harm a lot of smaller landowners. Yep.
Anyone else like to speak?
Hi there, my name's Eric Berryhill. I work for the Virginia Department of Energy as the solar program manager. I serve the Commonwealth. I serve all of you all. I just wanted to introduce myself. I serve as a resource to localities around this topic of siting. I appreciate all the hard work that you all have done. And I certainly have seen this in a lot of localities. It's a very tough decision, and a lot of things that you haven't seen before. And I'm happy to answer questions. I believe we have engaged with county staff in the past. I'm happy to assist with this commission or the board as well, just as a resource for you all from the state. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Anyone else like to speak?
Good to see you again. My name is Joanne Scott, 225 Pennsylvania Drive, Chesterfield, Virginia. Our family is not involved with this project. I guess everybody's glad to hear about that. I'm speaking tonight for private property rights for each person who owns some land, which is 1/4 acre or 10,000 acres. Growing up on Crowns Road, I did not know what a neighbor was. We could not see another house from our farm. In my 20s and moving forward, much of the time I lived on less than an acre. And I got along just fine with my neighbors. 1,000-foot buffer for solar farms will eliminate most tracts of land except for very large and very properties that have a real symmetrical property. And that's for most of our properties, basically, they're not symmetrical. They're not squares, they're not rectangles. Midwest, you see a lot of that. You don't see it here. So in my mind, here we go again, picking winners over losers. So farmers are going to have to pass their property, farmers that want to pass their properties, and this is spoken to earlier, their children don't have the option to lease part of their land for solar farming. This also applies to other landowners besides farmers. It's like they don't deserve that opportunity. Their property rights don't matter too much. The big question to me is, where do your property rights end and someone else's begin? What is what is not yours? Who gives you that right? Will the next generation even have the right to own private property? Thank you so very much. The best of all of us.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Supervisor Phelps, members of the Planning Commission, it's a pleasure to be back in front of you all this evening. I had the pleasure to engage many of you during my time at Conservatives for Clean Energy, speaking about the Torch Project. I became involved in it when I was seeing many different news reports in the Monitor about how controversial it was and the community outrage that was going on for a project that I think, and you may agree, was phenomenally sited, very well buffered, in a very rural part of the county, interior to the parcels that the Torch Project was put on. It is my distinct hope that you all adopt an ordinance that will encourage great projects to take place. I do not think that this version is a ordinance that will allow great projects to take place. A few weeks ago, me and my colleague founded a new nonprofit, Virginia, called Energy Right, to pursue energy developed the right way. We want these projects of any sort, whether they're solar or any other sort of electricity, built in rural Virginia, to be developed the best way possible. I think the Torch Project, although it was controversial, set the bar awfully high. This ordinance would prohibit the Torch Project from coming forward. The Torch Project was 1,000 feet from the nearest home, not the property lines. In other counties, I've worked in probably a dozen, including Chesterfield, Nottoway, on behalf of good projects and ordinances coming forward. 150 feet is a generous statewide standard that counties are adopting in terms of setbacks from a property line. 150 feet, not 1,000. This slams the door on future development taking place in Amelia County, closes the door for businesses. Some of you all who are at the Board of Supervisors meeting a couple of weeks back when the Torch project was passed, heard from the chairman of the South Central Virginia Business Alliance, who talked about the huge economic potential that South Side Virginia businesses stand to gain when these projects take shape and these projects use local goods and services. It shuts the door on economic development. Property rights is a huge conservative value I'm very passionate about, and I think you all should think about as you're determining this ordinance. This hurts the small guy. Not very many people own property 1,000 foot wide to begin with. Not many people own a piece of property 2,000 feet wide, which would allow you to put maybe 1 foot of panels in the middle of that. You have to own an enormous plot of land to put even a couple acres of solar onto your land. I'm really wondering what the goals of this ordinance are. I think it misses the mark in several ways, most notably those setbacks. There is a lot of good in this ordinance, but those setbacks kill development and kill property rights. And I'm not sure that this planning commission was intending on that to take place. And siding on farmland, I know that's a proposal for the comprehensive plan. How are we going to determine that? What if a farmer has been farming land and has not been making as much money as he would like and wants to put the back 20 acres into a solar facility? How is the county going to track what that land was 8 years ago? I don't think that'd be a good precedent to set. The last question I'd leave you with is, how far onto someone's property does this planning commission and this board of supervisors want to reach to tell them what they can and can't do? I don't think 1,000 feet is that answer. I'm fully in support of buffering projects from view, putting up vegetative buffers and making them the best productive neighbors possible, providing income for the county, the landowner, giving local goods and services a fair shot at some of these contracts to own and operate, build and operate these facilities. We haven't even started talking about 5,000 foot setbacks for batteries. And I know that's a new technology, but that's a mile. There are very few places, if there are any in the county, where you go a mile off the property line and site a battery facility. These are things that other counties like Chesterfield and Nottoway County taking a very different tack at. We can put batteries in a lot of places. You can put batteries anywhere that there's transmission capacity. There's also berms in here. It might sound like a good idea to put a mile or two of berms around a larger project. It's really, really expensive. I don't think that would allow much room for these projects to pay taxes. The more expensive we make these projects, the less the landowner's going to make, the less the county's going to be able to make. The more expensive it is to produce electricity and to build these projects. So talked to Holly in the past, would really like to engage with the county. If you guys take a closer look at this and continue deliberations, but I don't think this draft meets the conservative ideals that I hope that it eventually will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else like to speak? No one? Close. Second public hearing. Moving on to the third public hearing. With utility scale solar comprehensive plan amendment. Comprehensive plan has to be redone, I think, starting next year, so it takes a while to get that done. This can go in as an amendment at this point. Any commission member have a comment on this one? Hearing nothing, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone like to speak?
Again, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I really just wanted to stand up and address and acknowledge the fact that there are two elements being considered, both through the ordinance itself as well as these potential changes to the comp plan. I think that everyone's benefit, probably not too much interest in delving into the additional details here, but just letting folks know that certainly the concerns expressed earlier apply also. I think it was stated well in terms of looking at the historical use of properties and the challenges of implementing that are something that just really go in good step with what we were concerned about commenting on the ordinance itself. So thank you for second public hearing and opportunity to speak, but I would just suggest that comments from the report perhaps stand with what I do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Hey there, I just wanted to flag on this topic of siting on agricultural land. There's currently a work group under that I'm a part of with the Virginia Cooperative Extension is leading, is a part of House Bill 894. It's a much larger bill if you go look it up online, but there is a component of it to develop a statewide map of prime farmland, specifically to assist localities in siting determinations. There is a report due at the end of this year to the General Assembly about what that product will look like. I think we're hoping that we'll have at least the prime farmland layer of that complete. Really, like I said, to serve as a resource for localities, recognizing that it is difficult to kind of map out and make determinations on ag land. We are really hoping that this will be a useful resource and we can include a lot of other mapping layers that are relevant for siting. So I just wanted to flag that for you all as something that's in the process for your consideration, and hopefully something that will be helpful to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to speak? Anyone else like to speak? Not, I'll close the public hearing on that comprehensive plan amendments. Go back into the planning commission meeting. For the comments. Especially exemption permit. Reading over what we had, I thought a lot of holes in there. A lot of unknown. I don't own a gun. I've done plenty of guns. They hunt. I don't hunt. I have nothing against guns. I just don't think I need one. But they might give me a mark. But the thing is, when I first saw it in that many housing sites that close, I just thought, I have two neighbors across the river in Byron, one adjacent to me. Pretty much every Sunday, you can pretty much start at 12 o'clock. It's when you shoot until 6 o'clock. I've seen them mow down a tree. I've seen them mow down railroad ties. Don't know how they can afford that much ammunition. But that's for them. That's for them to worry about. I mean, I just know what it sounds like. I guess my cows have gotten used to it. It's just a lot that I think left open-handed. Any comments?
Looking at the map, looks like it's been cut over the last few years. So that's pretty. Not going to buffer sale or forbidden sale. And look like putting the shooting ranges up right up behind the biggest houses, sitting at the very back of the property where it needs to be a little more privacy. He's not done this before. So I don't know if he wants to draw it, but he can come up with a better plan. Or what, but I think it's important.
Could be way it's drawn up. We don't know what to. Any more comment?
Like the gentleman said earlier. We're shooting away from the houses. And your gun sound is going to come firing back. So the houses want to hear more of the sound since they're going down way. So if you're going to start, if you're going to go away from the house and shooting, and the sound, you're going to hear more of the sound.
putting houses. So I'm just thinking from that perspective, you know, also from the dusk to dawn. Get close to that.
Comments. So I'll say, you know, first off, but second, make sure that I do have guns and I enjoy shooting and people that know me, I'm a very outspoken, vocal person when it comes to supporting gun rights and shooting rights. I also think that there's people that, like a lot of us grew up, don't have an opportunity to go find somewhere to shoot. I do support that, and I would certainly support having one in the county. That being said, I think this is probably the absolute worst place on Johnson Road that you could have put it. That's probably the densest population on that whole road. And really, in my opinion, because I do support gun rights and everything else, I think and we have a lot of people like you that don't necessarily support the Second Amendment or have guns, but they don't oppose them. You put something like that, and then when you need that community support, you won't have it. So I think I've supported in other places in the county, other pieces of property. I think that's the right one.
And that's what I heard from even the people that called me that were here tonight. We support one in another location, you know, that's further away, has more setback, but it's not like they're opposed to the idea altogether, just this location.
Look, I will say, I actually farm next to the one in Ottawa. I mean, my property that I farm butts up against that. There are some houses there, but it's pretty well laid out. It's not a nuisance. It's much laid out. It's like, my cat doesn't bother my cows at all, but we're right there next to it. It's not bad, but it's well run and it's laid out much better than that.
Comment. This doesn't have anything to do with the Second Amendment. It has to do with this proper location for this kind of recreational facility. I think Carol Smallwood, lady here that said that she was 2 miles away from the one in Amelia wildlife area. And she heard the shooting. That's true. I'm about 2 miles away from it. A lot depends on the a low pressure system. If it's earlier in the day or later in the day. So the information about the decibels and so forth that's something that's very difficult to assess. But just to have this kind of facility should be, 100 to 200 acres. 20 acres is just, even if there weren't houses there, if there are other landowners, that's gonna have a negative impact on, on the values of their property. And, this case, why there's a substantial number of people in the area too. So, I don't think we should, I just don't think we should encourage, project here.
Anyone else like to speak?
I fielded several calls on this project. Things I pick up on it, I don't like this, doesn't have a fence around it. It keeps stray animals, wildlife, that the berms I would think need to be all around it, for safety, for ricochets. This is in the absolutely worst spot. But the noise is gonna be tremendous. It's like 100 feet from a property line, and I think the map shows maybe 200 yards from the closest house. It is. It's gonna be detrimental to that neighborhood. And people do hunt around there, but most hunters hopefully shoot one time. It's done, but this is gonna be an ongoing, especially at nighttime. I'm not.
Any more comment? Recommendations, anyway.
And up. It's not.
With the information we have present. Motion been made, is there a second? Motion made and second, any more discussion?
Someone saying.
Make sure, Holly, that Travis abstained. Are you taking a minute?
Yeah, I got it. Who seconded it though? I got Jennifer.
Who's the Bates?
Okay.
Heard the motion? Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, make it known by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. 100%, Holly. Okay. Like the point came out, there's other places in the county, but that's not the right site for that type of project. And I think it certainly needs a whole lot of 11 pages instead of 2 pages. So many unanswered questions. Moving to the second one. One received their copy, all blood red. What was changed? Heard the comment from the public hearing. What's your pleasure on that? David, do we review it some more? Pass it on to the board of supervisors and let them do it? May send it back to us. But
I think, we can still address setbacks as a special acceptance.
I think it states in there, that's what they recommend, but each board supervisors or the planning commission can adjust according to the project at that point.
If you don't want to do a special exception, you have to be $1,000 feet. If you want to do it through special exception, they could possibly convince us to reduce the setbacks a little. I make a motion to approve it as is.
Motion been made. Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, it's been second. John seconded. Any more discussion?
I think there's something that's missing here. We discussed the agricultural land. And as Chairman Boyer proposed, the 10-year was discussed. It was discussed whether it would be in the ordinance or in a comprehensive plan. And there were numerous comments that it would be in both.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt. I know we had that discussion and I talked to some of you about it afterwards. I did go back to our attorney again, and he strongly recommended not putting it in the zoning ordinance.
When I first read it, that's the thing I was looking for. Couldn't find it.
I know, I asked again, but he was pretty adamant that it only be in the comprehensive plan.
Because I contacted you again that after I left here, I thought about all that pasture land. And that's a productive farmland too, in my point. I had row crops. I guess you don't consider that a row crop. But then you sent me the email from Jeff.
Well, the county attorney works for the county, or the board of supervisors. And so if this had something to do with legality, that's one thing, but I don't know that it does.
And, excuse me. There can be accommodation for a smaller, for a small amount of, agricultural land, just by saying, 5% or something. But, and as far as saying, well, how do you determine the 10 years? The Farm Service Agency, farms are kept up with. There are, the Service Agency has crops grow every year. And so there really is nothing wrong with the idea that Chairman Gordon put forward about agricultural land that the crop has been taken off of in the last 10 years. This is a strong agricultural county. We don't need to be guided by what some of the other counties surrounding us are doing. So I think that I would like to see us incorporate this. And so since there's an amendment on the floor, since there's a motion on the floor, passing it the way it is, we either need to defeat that amendment, or we can have that motion, or we can have an amendment. And so I would like to make an amendment that this move forward with the proposal as stated by Chairman Moyer, with a second sentence in addition, that up to 5% may be included in a utility scale solar project. And maybe Chairman Moyer would like to restate his statement from last time.
I brought that out as a comment.
I mean, what's written in there, it's not like you're prohibiting it from ag land, it's just discouraged, if I remember correctly, that was the words.
It's not in this
I mean, yeah, but I mean, that would.
one. It's in the second one.
Yeah, I know, but in that, what was the wording I'm talking about? It doesn't say prohibited.
Therefore, including the 10-year provision.
Yeah, we were clear our last meeting that we wanted to see it in both the ordinance and in the comprehensive plan. And in this instance, without further information, it's been changed by the county attorney.
Okay, I'm gonna read the county attorney's response. So I asked about putting it in both, and he said, the comprehensive plan is where it belongs. I'm not sure it would be enforceable as a zoning provision. Being in the comprehensive plan helps underpin zoning decisions and helps steer applicants away from the front end from land in recent agricultural production. It's a little too big brother for a zoning ordinance and could be subject to legal challenges. Plus, it could end up tying the board's hands on particular projects that they may otherwise like. This approach sends a strong signal while also preserving flexibility. That was on August 4th.
I think that's a weak response.
Well, I can't speak to that. I'm just reading what I got.
Oh, you got a motion, I got an amendment to the motion. I gotta have a second to the amendment on the motion before we can vote on the amendment, then we vote on the motion as amended. Can I get a second on the amendment? Hearing no second, amendment will be dead. assuming when we pass this on to the board of supervisors, they'll have the final say on it. They can add what they want. And I think most all of them know how planning commission feels. Now, whether they go with attorney is one way or the other. Any more discussion on the motion?
The only thing I've got to comment is on that, 1,000-foot setback. I mean, I went and looked at my property. And I realize it's not with the special exception permit, it could be less than 1,000 foot. But I do have concerns in that, and I'm not trying to put my property into one, but if I did, it wouldn't fit on my property, even though my property adjoins other farms that are on conservation easements, it would still prohibit it. So it is a concern, and I understand that if somebody has a smaller property that they're trying to get in.
But it does go back.
But it does go back to special
What
exception.
Roy said.
I agree.
You get the allows
To do
one at a time.
right, yeah.
This one covers utility scale, correct? It's smaller projects.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that, anything that you're putting up would fall in the utility scale, other than stone use or something, right?
It's a megawattage or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is the definition?
It could be a little bigger if your personal house, but
So it's not a-
less than 50 acres.
And it goes back to where it's like, how many houses you got, right? How many houses going to affect? Like the Jew brain. It's out in Buck 2 or no houses. Probably get by with 150. I don't like to see a house myself, but people have to have them. The county does need. That's one thing we are short on is houses for young people. You heard the motion and the second. Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, make a note by saying aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Got that, Holly?
Yes, got it.
Moving on to comprehensive plan amendment, utility scale solar. That gives us leeway also. We did the last comprehensive plan. Number one thing, keep it rule, keep it rule. You can't keep ruling, put everything in your house or in the whole house. Comments? Motion, concerns? Gotta remember all the comments we had 5 months ago. Solar panel altogether too. This goes into comprehensive plans. It's gonna be rewritten. Revised. I guess. Revised. Think it's done. Pretty soon. Discussion, comment? It's your pleasure. Motion been made in a second. Ramsey second. Any more discussion or comment? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Pass on the board of supervisors and present it to us, make a note by saying aye. All opposed, same sign, 100%. Holly? Here, have anything like to bring up? Mine doesn't. March 6 o'clock in this room. Be going over our code project. Got 6:15. Warm welcome. Yeah, one I had heard from them earlier. Have a little bit knowledge of it. A little different type of project than the two we had. Kind of intriguing, and one's different. Only comment I have. You else have anything? Appreciate you coming. Glad we had a good participation. Discussion. Adjourned.
No.